We've been talking a lot over the last couple of days about Chicago's history, recent history of peaceful, well-organized protests, but we also have a history of violent demonstrations, and Lourdes Duarte is here to give us some historical perspective.
Guys, we've been taking a look at some of the video from 1968. There's a lot of pieces of video that look very similar to what we're seeing today, and people at home have been asking a lot about this. What are some of the similarities? Well, that year, back in 1968, there were National Guard in American cities as protests and riots broke out. There were tensions of race, economics, politics, and there you see some of the pictures that we've been able to dig up. In 1968, Chicago was host to the Democratic National Convention that was met, again, by those protests. Joining us now on the phone is John Russick. He's the Senior Vice President of the Chicago History Museum, and as we talk to him, we're going to continue to keep these pictures up. John, are you there? Can you hear me?
I am. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you for joining us. Let's talk a little bit about 1968, and as you put these two pictures together, what are some of the similarities that you're seeing today with what we saw back then?
Well, you know, it's probably the most obvious thing to say is when you have passionate people about a subject that you know they feel is extraordinarily legitimate and worthy of their time and their effort to protest. And you have the responsibilities of law enforcement sort of coming head to head in a city with lots of other people, and the potential for conflict is high. And I think that's probably the greatest similarity we're seeing here is just that we have a lot of folks on the street who are very passionate about wanting to make their voices known or their voices heard and protest the events of this past week. But you also have civic responsibility to keep order and to make sure that citizens of the city are safe. So it's a recipe for problems, and it's not something that's easily avoided.
And John, as I look at these pictures and I start to sort of recognize some of the neighborhoods that we're talking about, back then, how were some of these neighborhoods able to recover from some of the looting and the rioting and these fires that were set off? What did you see in those neighborhoods in the decades after?
Well, I think one of the really challenging things for Chicago has been that in some cases many of these neighborhoods never truly recovered or took decades to recover after the kind of violence that was experienced in the 60s, especially if you couple the 68 Democratic National Convention with the riots that followed the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King that April of that year. I mean, the West Side was devastated by the aftermath of that event, and you know, the destruction comes quickly, but the recovery can take decades, and sometimes it can sort of fail to show up altogether.
Okay. John Russick, we appreciated with the Chicago History Museum as we take a look back at the riots back in 1968.